What's up guys, welcome to Vintage Genetics, where it is all about classic bodybuilding. You hear the echo because I'm alone in the gym. All the freedom that I need to build a massive back, because that is what this workout is all about. What we're going to work though is not just the back itself, not just the entire back, but really focus on the lower lats. My lats are inserted higher than average when I look at my competition pictures and compare myself to the rest. That does give me a good V-shape at the top, but I also want my waist to look smaller due to having the lats inserted a little lower. Of course, the insertion point of your lats is unchangeable, but you can increase the thickness of the lats, and in some angles you will actually look like you have a lower inserted back. But you have to work the muscles of the lower lats first. So today we are going to focus on exercises that will work mostly the lower lats. Of course, it's all about emphasis, because every time you do a back exercise, you pretty much target the entire back, all the back muscles, but you can use different angles and different grips to target different parts of the back. So, just at my pre-workout, I can feel the beta-alanine tingling in my face. So, it is really time to get started right now with the first exercise, the underhand lat pull down. The underhand lat pull down allows you to pull your elbows closer together instead of having this grip. With the underhand grip, you can literally see the difference in the elbow placement. The closer you can put your elbows to your side, the more contraction you will be able to get in your back. So let's just get started on exercise number 1. So, exercise number 1 is the underhand lat pull down, which is an amazing exercise to get some back thickness in the lower lats, but also the middle traps or the middle back to really get the lower traps in as well. And what I'm really doing here, as I told you guys, is really pull down as low as I can until the bar touches the chest, and the width of the grip should be about shoulder width. So the thing about back exercises is that you can pretty much pull a lot of weight with your entire back if you want to. The trick is getting into the muscles that you really want to work. So for example, when I watch older videos of mine, I can tell why the back thickness isn't where the back width is. So my back width is much better than the thickness. And the reasoning, for example, is during this exercise right here, when I do this movement, I cannot really go all the way down with a heavy weight, so that's why I'm lowering the weight so I can able to contract it fully. And this part right here is the weakest part of the range of motion for me, because that's not what I'm used to, as all these years I haven't made that full range of motion. One of the things you have to do to increase, you know, the way that you are as a bodybuilder in terms of muscle mass, in terms of getting better, is to be honest with yourself. Right now, I am. So, if you want to be better, I really recommend recording yourself, because sometimes it feels like you're contracting to the max. Then you watch the video and you're like, okay, I perhaps could have done 10% more. By lowering the weight, you can actually get into that area, targeting muscle fibers in a different way, creating hypertrophy in places where you want to see it. So that's what I'm going to do today. The weight will be maximally high only with the correct range of motion. So if you simply cannot complete the entire range of motion, lower the weight and you will automatically get stronger during the entire range of motion, and then you can up the weight again for the next few workouts. And that's what progressive overload is, but you have to do it in the right way. So even me, after training for like 11 or 12 years, can still learn by watching and observing myself, getting feedback from others, and comparing my progression to my peers, my competitive fellow bodybuilders. Anyway, let's get on with the training, because too much talking won't make muscle grow. And I'm going up in small weight increments, because from now on I will really work the back even better than I had before. Of course, I've always trained with a full range of motion, but usually after going too heavy, after like the third or fourth set, you start to neglect the contraction part a little bit, which, you know, neglects the hypertrophy, which I simply need at this level of competition. Because for everyone who doesn't know, I am a classic physique competitor who competes at, have competed at the Mr. Olympia and the Arnold Classic in Ohio, which are the two biggest shows in the world. And every single little detail that you don't possess will show on stage compared to veteran bodybuilders who stand next to you, who also train day in and day out with special coaches, special trainers in America, and I am just here in the Netherlands training mostly on my own. So I have to maximize the training, and with the proper knowledge is definitely as possible. I've heard some people, I've seen some people tell me in terms of feedback of getting a trainer who helps me, train certain body parts. Of course, it's always nice to have someone look at you objectively and tell you exactly how to train. But that's why I always record myself, because I do look at your feedback and look at the recording like a video. And in the last time I did these underhand lat pull downs, I noticed that I don't go all the way down. And of course it does feel while doing a movement that I'm hitting a full range of motion, a maximal contraction, but you simply have to lower the weight a little bit if you cannot literally do a full range of motion. So if you're still a few inches from your chest with the bar, lower the weight until you hit the chest with the bar. No matter how much you have to lower the weight, you simply have to do that if you want 100% development in the muscle that you are working. Alright, the next exercise will also be an underhand movement. The underhand bent over row, or the underhand barbell row. I like to prefer the barbell row. Actually, I like to prefer to call it that way because I'm not parallel to the floor. So a lot of people think that the barbell row and the bent over row are the exact same exercises, but in my opinion, a bent over row is really when your upper body is parallel to the floor, and a barbell row is when your body is like 45 degrees. Or 30 degrees, depending on how much you're angled against the floor is, your upper body. But that's why I name it differently. But anyway, during the underhand barbell row, I actually do the same thing. I want the bar to pretty much hit the belly button area so I can really contract the lower lats. But here, what I'm really looking at is not the weight that I'm using, but really the contraction. Because here you have to actually fight against gravity going, the gravity is pulling the bar down and you have to pull it upwards. And especially that the last part where your muscle is the weakest, at least for me, because that is the most underdeveloped in my back, the thickness area, that's the weakest part for me. So there, if I go too heavy, I miss doing that part. And that's only like 10 to 5% of the range of motion, but that few percentage can actually cause a big difference in muscle growth. And here I am showing you that I'm wearing the Vintage Genetics weightlifting belt, size large in the tightest setting. And I remember that when I weighed around the weight that I'm weighing now, 115 kilograms in the morning, that I wasn't able to put it even now like 2 knots looser. So I do notice a difference in the waist. I've been doing a lot of vacuum practice, a lot more. So in the morning and after every single training. Usually I only did it in the morning and sometimes when I trained abs. But now every single day will be 2 separate times that I train the transverse abdominis, the muscle responsible for pulling in the stomach. Here you can see that I'm going quite heavy, at least for me. And when I cannot reach the full range of motion anymore, I simply stop the movement. A lot of people also ask me, so do you train to failure, and what is training to failure? Because you just saw that failure that I use is when I cannot utilize a full range of motion anymore. So the moment that the bar doesn't hit my stomach anymore, then I hit failure because I cannot hit full range of motion. And that is where a training partner would come in handy to help you spot an exercise like that. Of course, on the bent over row or the barbell row, it is very difficult to spot, a training partner. But for other exercises, mostly on machines, it definitely is possible to hit a few force reps with a perfect range of motion to get you even past that failure. But anyway, this next exercise is seated row with a quite wide grip, with a neutral grip or a hammer grip as I like to call it. A different grip from what we have used until now. We did 2 underhand grips. And now we're doing a hammer grip, a wide seated grip, and that really targets the lower lats again, but also really the back thickness in the traps, which of course can never be thick enough. And as you notice, normally I like to rock back and forth a lot more, but now I'm starting to sit a little straighter with the upper body to make sure to really focus on the contraction the most. Because if you go forward too much, which I do recommend for people who want a better V shape, a V taper, then you also focus on the lat width. And really this workout is all about the back thickness and the lower lats and the traps. Alright, here is an exercise I haven't actually done for a while, but I've utilized a good way of doing this movement for the lower lats. Normally, a lot of people simply sit on a bench with their knees and just do a dumbbell row straight down and straight upwards. But here I'm using the natural movement of the back to do the dumbbell row. And what you train then, you guessed it, the lower lats and the back thickness optimally. As you can see right here, when I go downwards, the dumbbell pretty much goes towards the dumbbell rack, and when I go upwards, it goes backwards, really pulling it into the lower lats. And trust me, when you do this exercise right, you immediately feel it and know it, because you feel those lower lats contracting, especially exactly where they attach to your body. So where the lower lat inserts, you will feel a contraction. That's what you want. Here I'm actually going a little too heavy, as I've not done this exercise for quite a while, but here you can see that I'm trying to make a full range of motion, but it is very difficult to hit the contraction at the top, which is why I always recommend going a little lighter sometimes to hit a full, to get full development on the muscle that you're working. So put your ego on the side. That's what I've been doing for a lot of years, for a lot of different muscle groups, but also for the bigger muscle groups like back, where you feel like you're training it optimally, you sometimes have to go down in weight a little bit to get stronger in the range of motion where you're weakest, and then you're getting stronger again and go heavy again. Here I am checking my shape a couple of weeks after the Arnold Classic contest. Let's see how many weeks, about a month, actually 4 weeks, just about. This is my shape right now. I'm still quite happy with the conditioning that I'm at. I'm not trying to move away from this conditioning at all. Maybe a little more fat here and there automatically, because this time I really want to gain some quality mass. On the show, I weighed around 110 kilograms in the morning, if not less, and now I weigh 115 kilograms in the morning. Of course, right now the diet is different. There's barely a carb cycle left. Most days are consistent carbs, like 300 to 400 grams of carbs, and on a rest day it's a little lower, and then here and there a cheat meal or a cheat day, for example going out for dinner. Of course, we're in a lean bulk right now, and you've got to live as well, because the freedom that I have right now mentally is very important for me, because I've been doing shows since 2017, and mentally people underestimate the effect that the freedom of mental health has on your physical manifestation by getting more hypertrophy in return for having less stress, if you know what I mean. And here I am about to hit the front of a bicep, pretty much like Arnold used to hit it, which is also something I'm going to work on
in my posing to not always hit everything in perfect symmetry, but also hit poses with a little less symmetry. Here I'm hitting it a little bit more symmetry. Just comparing the poses with each other. I'm going to practice my posing every single week for a couple of days to ensure that I be at my best for the next show, basically. And guys, that was the workout. The next videos will also be about nutrition, what I'm doing right now. A lot of people are asking me what I've been doing in terms of nutrition, what I'm eating. So I'm going to go more in depth about that. And leave your questions down below, because I will be doing a Q&A also. I want to thank you for watching, and don't forget to stay golden.